Xavi and Micah from our team, from our customer success team here in Madrid, work with customers across industries, but in particular, they have done some really cool work with some of our customers, supply chain and logistics, and just sort of sharing some of the best practices there. But I'm not going to steal their thunder. Over to you guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Ian. Okay. So, good morning and welcome everyone to this session on spatial innovations in commercial planning and logistics, in which we will be sharing some examples on how businesses across sectors use location intelligence nowadays. My name is Javier Bertrufero, and I have the pleasure to share the stage today with my colleague, Michael Gonzalez Madrid. We are both customer success managers at CARTO. I would like to start the presentation with a couple of facts. Some months ago at CARTO, we published a report on the status of location intelligence today, in which we surveyed more than 200 business executives, data analysts, and business analysts. When asked with the question, does your organization collect and store location data, the 94% of C-level managers said yes. Regarding how important it is location intelligence for your organization, 66% of respondents said that today it is already very or extremely important, with 85% of them saying that it will be in the next 3 years. So it is a fact that location intelligence is changing the way we do business across sectors. And besides the fact of the availability of new tools that democratize the access to this type of geospatial analysis, we think that this fact is due to 3 main factors. First, the availability of new data streams, such as transaction data from financial institutions, mobile data from telco operators, crowdsourced data, for example, for traffic. Second, the access to new types of analysis, optimization, spatial inference, spatial data science. And third, and very important, the fact that businesses are adapting themselves to catch this wave by creating teams of business intelligence and data science. There's a fast-growing trend of location data being generated nowadays. Everything is being transformed kind of in a moving sensor. So we have IoT devices, mobile phones, connected cars, sensors of many kinds, satellites. All this huge amount of data has a key and common component that is location, because at the end of the day, everything happens somewhere. Industries apply location intelligence by first collecting and storing all the location data in spatial databases, then enriching their own data with these new data streams that I just mentioned, and we have been listening a lot about it during these 2 days at CARTO locations. Then they analyze everything together with this new type of analysis, optimization, inference, prediction. And then they create fast, interactive, and elegant visualizations. And finally, and most importantly, they take action to influence the business. Industries apply location intelligence today in many ways. For example, in banking and insurance, they do it for risk assessment, fraud detection. It is part of smart cities initiatives. In real estate, it's used for pricing optimization. It is used for geomarketing in many type of industries, for mobility planning, in transport and logistics, among many others. In this presentation today, we will be focusing on examples in 2 main use cases that are commercial planning and logistics.
Hello. Yeah. All right, thank you, Xavi, and thank you everyone for being here this morning. So the first example I wanted to share with you is really simple, yet I think is also very powerful because it shows how making some very small changes in the way you look at your own data in your company can have a significant impact in your business. So for IKEA Spain, sales and marketing managers used to look at their own data through spreadsheets and graphs. And the only kind of geographic context that they had for analyzing that data was zip codes. And we all know that zip codes are actually just mere numbers, right? You might know some zip codes around your area, but you certainly don't know all the zip codes for national territory, for example. So because of that limitation, they couldn't really understand some issues, some patterns that they were seeing with their customers and their sales. They were seeing that some customers were actually traveling furthest distance to go purchase IKEA products to a store that was not the one that was the closest to their home. And as a result of that, they were also seeing some sales cannibalization between the stores that were in the same city. So what they did, they created a series of dashboards, of spatial dashboards, and those different dashboards were really simple, but with each one of them had their own its own objective in mind. And by just simply already visualizing their sales data and being able to explore it on a map, those sales and marketing managers were able to find overperforming or underperforming sales territories. So that was already one thing. But the really interesting part is that by looking at their sales data and adding different types of KPIs and mixing everything together, and when I say KPIs, those are not just the sales numbers, but for example, the number of households per zip code, some of their own data about their membership club, etc. By mixing all of those together, they were able to create their own geographic boundaries, their own business boundaries. And that's going to be something that I'll repeat and is very important because by creating your own geographic regions, your own regions of interest, they were able to understand better those patterns of people traveling further distance and the reason behind the store cannibalizations. So here it's a quick gift to show you, how they had the different KPIs in the widgets and how the store managers would just have a simple dashboard that allow them to quickly and very fast every day look at their sales performance in different territories and compare it with, for example, Madrid and Barcelona. This is, by the way, fake data. Another interesting example I wanted to share is this one from Brazil. So in Brazil, we're working with Bradesco, which is one of the leading insurers in Brazil. And we are trying to help them better understand the territories in which they operate. And what was of particular interest to them was to understand the pattern, the correlation between the people traveling between their homes and work that had to go through favelas and the crime areas, the crime rate. So again, this is an example, a simple example, where by taking their own data and mixing up with some external data where the favelas were and actually the insurance claims amounts, you can easily see when they filter by the distance to the favela, how that amount of the insurance claims were changing.
So retailers can now measure the performance of their store in terms of the exposure to potential visitors with the use of mobile data offered by telco operators. As you could also learn yesterday in Vodafone's presentation. So with this data stream, retailers can understand which is the audience that moves in the surrounding of their stores. They can analyze these potential visitors from where do they come from in different types of day, whether it's a weekday or a weekend, and different moments of the day, whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon. They can also learn the socio-demographic attributes of these potential customers. And also they can compare this area of influence of their stores among each other or of stores of their own against those from their competition. So here you have also an example of the solution Vodafone Analytics, where you can see now loading is the area of influence and the origins of visitors to a particular store, how you can filter them. Analyze the socio-demographic attributes in terms of gender and age. Filter those origins geospatially by looking at the routed distance, whether it is by car or walking, and then finally compare these areas of influence between one store and another. Location intelligence can also be applied indoors. In this example from El Corte Inglés, they measure the consumer and staff behavior with the use of Wi-Fi and mobile app data. With this, they can get insights on which are the most common routes used by customers and staff. They can also analyze whether there are visual or access obstacles that can prevent conversion in different parts of the store, and also measure the use of infrastructures such as stairs and elevators to optimize the maintenance cost.
So another interesting use case that has come up a lot is actually sales tree management. And we've heard it so much that we've built like CARTO solutions for it called SalesQuest. And the thing we've seen is that companies themselves are seeing that there are every year an increase in field expenses. And that's a fact, right? But not only that, they're also realizing that they're committing too many resources to high-profile clients, which means that in the end, you have a large base of clients that are remaining untouched. And on the other side, you also have the sales rep that are complaining that they are only able to spend 1/3 of their time selling. The rest probably spend looking at their CRM data. So with solutions like SalesQuest, what we're doing is giving the possibility to the sales manager to explore all their CRM data, all their sales data on a map. And here again, just with this simple different way of looking at data, the sales manager are able to identify clusters of high potential customers, for example. They could as well be looking at their own data, their own teams, and realizing that maybe some teams in a specific region are underperforming compared to the others, or imagine that they are seeing the average selling price diminishing in the last couple of quarters. But the sales reps can also make use of the tool. They could be using the tool to plan for the field trips. And let's say, for example, you're visiting a customer this afternoon, and you have to go to the other side of Madrid. You need to go there. You can use the tool to just look at the route with Google Maps. But what's really interesting is that you're able to look at all the other customers or prospects that you have around that customer that you're visiting, but then start filtering according to the criteria and the KPI that are important for you, and decide on which ones you want to visit around that customer. And for example, you might just look at the KPI and the criteria of the last visits made. If I haven't visited some customer for the last 3 months, maybe those are the ones I should focus on that they visit. So as a result, we've seen companies being able to increase their clients visit per month around 10%, and then as an end result, their annual sales increasing 22%. And then lastly, I wanted to finish with a great example and one of my favorites that we've been working with Publix, which is one of the leading grocery stores in the east of the United States. And it really shows how Spatial innovation is helping them better optimize their supply chain network. So Publix has been expanding recently. They've been opening new stores in new territories that they were not covering before, in states that they were not in before. And that meant that they had to cover that increase in demand with their current distribution centers, so with the same structure that they had before. And that meant that they were suffering from an increase in time that they had for the supply, so supply was actually late, and they also had high transportation costs as a result. So what they did is that they for the first step, they took all their information about their stores and their distribution centers, and they put that on a map. And then by doing some spatial analysis, they were able to create logical clusters of stores that needed to be served under the same distribution center. And they did that based on population data that they took directly from that observatory. And once they had those clusters of customers of stores that needed to be served under the same distribution center, they had, for a second step, to optimize the routes, right? So optimize the routes for their trucks to supply those stores. So they ended up with an optimized network of supply chain that already was giving them some savings. But they didn't want to stop there. They wanted to take an extra step and actually ask the question of where should I open my new distribution center to cover those new areas where I'm making new business, still minimizing distance traveled and optimizing the routes. So in order to do that, again, they took their own data, their current network, and they added some external data. They looked at population data, they looked at employment data, and they looked at the road network data to decide on which city was the best one based on those criteria to open a new distribution center. And they ended up opening one at the east of Atlanta. And again, once they had this new distribution center, they had to go through the whole process again of creating new logical clusters, because now they're different, that were going to be served under the existing distribution centers and the new one, and then re-optimizing the routes. And what you can see here in the GIF is just a before and after picture of their previous existing network now, and then the new one, this one, where you see at the top right of the screen, the new distribution center. And you're able to, by looking at the widgets, quickly see the significant decrease in number of hours, in number of routes, and in the distance travel. And after working with them, Publix had an estimated savings of around $1 million of annual savings for fuel cost and time saved. So, to conclude, we've seen that now leaders are starting to look at data differently. They're starting to ask the where question. And that allows them to go from descriptive analytics to what we call predictive analysis. And this is made possible by a series of factors, and Xavi went through them in details at the beginning of the presentation, but especially because now organizations are starting to invest in those dedicated resources to run the spatial analysis. And we've seen a great example with the Vodafone use case throughout locations. But however, there's still so much more to do and so much more to explore in terms of spatial innovation. We're seeing still so many companies that are looking at traditional business territories like zip codes. But on the other hand, we've seen with the IKEA example how important and how much value you can bring if you start creating your own business territories based on one owns KPIs that make sense for the company. So that was it for the presentation.